fishing. People, when you're in the mood, let's go fishing. Well, it's just me and you. Head on down to the fishing hole. Grab your hat, get your pole. Let's go fishing when you're in the mood.
Canadian Sport Fishing is brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, conquer outdoors. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Blue Cam, a cleaner running engine for a cleaner environment.
You know, some species of fish live in a certain area all season long. It doesn't matter if it's winter, summer, fall, spring. Fish like lake trout that predominantly are in deeper water. But some freshwater fish, especially warm water fish like bass, pike, walleye, and even some of the panfish will actually migrate from deeper water into shallower water at certain times of the year. Some fish are really attracted to moving water, especially as they gear up for spawning. Nice pickup on that swimming jig head. He's trying to jump, but that water is so cold, it's still in the high 40s Fahrenheit, low 50s at the most. See if I can just lift this guy up. You know what I was doing there? I was actually working it on the bottom. This is like that, I call it a swimming jig head, because you can see it's got like a flat bottom and a scoop front. So when you reel it, it actually goes from side to side. But when it's on the bottom, it's like a stand-up head. See how it's standing up because it's flat? Look at how dark his belly is. Beautiful models. I love these little stripes that they start to develop when you land them. Look at that face. Little beady eyes. Tell you what, they're such a great game fish. Pretty fish, he's gonna say bye-bye real quick. Now, also the twister tail that I'm using here, you know, this actually outfit is made by my friend. His name is Scott Martin. He actually has his facility in Newfoundland. And one of the things that he does these soft plastics, and he calls them the zebra pattern. Can you see why he calls it zebra pattern? Look at all those lines in there. So when this is going through the water, I'm not sure what it's supposed to look like, but I think if the water's a little bit colored, like it's green this morning, that's really high contrast, whether, you know, it's red and white or black and white. So when you combine that twister tail going around and this head swimming a little bit from side to side, it produces fish. While some people are intimidated fishing moving water, I love it. The only thing is you got to know boat control, and you have to know the places on a river system where fish will be attracted, especially early in the season when the water's still cold. Early in the year, normally there aren't a lot of bait fish, so any of the bait fish are going to be close to the surface and pretty small probably. So the key is to find bottom structure and currents behind points, areas, bays where the water mixes, where there's a fast current, slow current, or no current, or even a back current. Those are hot spots that attract early season fish. You know, I've used all kinds of jig heads, fly jig heads like the Finesse fish ones, round jig heads. Now this is called the Warbler Jig Head, and it almost looks like a little spoon or a ladle. Notice how thin it is, it's not round, and how the eye is right kind of in the middle of this arch or half moon, and how wide it is. It's almost like a paddle. Well, this head is designed to actually pivot back and forth when you're retrieving it. And when it's sitting on the bottom, I just want to show you, it actually stands up. See, like that? Now, the way they come packaged is actually like this. You get two in a pack. So these are they're called MFS baits, and they're made in Canada. And what I did, I used them with what my friend Scott Martin, who makes these, calls these zebra-colored jigs. This particular one is a double tail. Some of them are single tail. And what I do is I interchange the actual soft plastic. So there's a yellow one. You can see the stripes that are on there. I like the stripes because I think it's really high contrast. So whether it's like the reddish orange with the yellow or the red and white, I just think the fish can really see it. And when they get close, there's that nice tantalizing action. And they're soft, of course, when they grab them. Yes, What a hit. This is what I'm looking for. You know that I read that it's the state fish for Oklahoma. Wow, look at the size of this thing. You know, the way that fish hit, I was trying to cast out to the current seam, and you can see that he just engulfed it. It was a whack. At first I thought it was a smallmouth bass because it fought so hard, but it's just a really nice, chunky white bass. That fish is actually over 17 inches, 17 and a half. That is a good sized white bass. But you know what? I'm throwing them back. You're a whopper, and whoppers should be released. What a slab! Look at the size of this thing. Much wider than my hand. I had him out for a split second and he fought well, so I'm just holding him up before he takes off. Yeah, that's freedom, baby. You ready? There goes. Beautiful fish.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Cable's Eyewear Retainer. Lightweight, comfortable, adjustable, and waterproof.
I've caught smallmouth bass as deep as 90 feet and as shallow as 2 feet of water. So throughout the season, they can really change where they're feeding, especially depending on the lake. But in the springtime, and especially in moving water, they tend to stay in deeper water, and then they make a transition into the 20-foot range, and then even into the 10 and even shallower. But that doesn't happen until the water temperatures start to warm up around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. What are you? Man, it's sounding. This is a freshwater drum. But just over the years, you know, here in Canada, a lot of fishermen call them sheep's head, probably because of the shape of their head. And they do look a lot like the black drum that you get in saltwater. Oh, look at the size of this thing. My goodness. That is a whopper of a fish. I don't think I can lift that up. Oh my goodness. That is a heavy fish. That finesse fish is just on the edge of the mouth. A lot of guys will catch these fish on bait, but I find they take artificials real well. I've caught them on crankbaits, body baits like, you know, long rapalas, and especially on jigs. You can see very silvery. This guy's very healthy. You can see that sheepish-like looking head. And that mouth that's not on the bottom, it's at the front. Reminds me a lot of a redfish or a red drum in salt water or a black drum. Taking my time because my hands are a little bit slimy. That is a whopper of a fish. It's probably gonna hit right to the bottom. Look at, wow, amazing. When water temperatures are cold early in the year and bait fish aren't around, you can still use lures that look like minnows or bait fish, but you need to fish them close to the bottom. Both white bass that are migrating up the rivers and smallmouth bass that may be resident or migrating also will be foraging along the bottom. Yes, what have I got? Ooh, looks like a nice smallmouth. This guy's fighting really well. You can see that water is a little green in color, not really clear. And I switched to a blade bait. This is a storm blade bait. Look at this, just hooked by the front hook. So this one is in a white bass. It's a green bass or a smallmouth bass, but you know what? They're all a lot of fun to catch. All right, nice smallies. I could just toss him back, but you know what? I'm being so gentle about it. Look at, there he goes. Yes, what I like about this bait is that it sinks real quick, and it doesn't, here, shake it, no rattles. But when I'm running with it, when I'm retrieving it, if I'm retrieving it steady, it has a really tight action, like a blade bait should. And if every once in a while I give it a couple of twitches, and I've done that, work it along the bottom, it has a really nice flash from side to side, because you can see it's very thin. Look at, though, the detail on this thing. It's amazing, the amount of detail. I don't know how they do it, but it's sure fooling me. It looks like a real fish. Yes, nice pickup. Wow, I'll tell you what, this wind has really picked up, but it seems like the fish haven't turned off. River, look, nice northern, and he's got that finesse fish right across his snout. Oh, good, he's not hooked deep. Maybe I'll be able to land him. Can we do it, River? Let's try. He's not a monster, but you know what? He's a very respectable northern. Okay, there, the hook is out. Look at, isn't that a nice pike? Beautiful fish. I can't really let go with my right hand because he'll probably fly out of my hand. So I'm going to very gently just release him again. It's nice to get a variety of fish, you know, especially when you're fishing these seams. You never know what predator are going to swim by. There he goes. While most weekend anglers go out and they probably use live bait and fish on the bottom, especially if the water's cold early in the year, and they pick places where they can fish from shore or from a small boat, I like to fish with artificials. And I know that when the water's cold, because fish are cold-blooded, their metabolism is slower, they're going to be moving slower, they're going to be fighting slower if you'll come up. So I use plastic grubs a lot with different types of jig heads, and I fish them close to the bottom. You know, I've been using Lunker City Finesse fish for almost 40 years, and they don't fail. Just amazing how effective that soft plastic bait actually is. There. It looks like he's been hooked before, because you can see that his maxillary is broken. But look at those gorgeous, vibrant colors. Very healthy fish, and that's the Finesse fish. I actually have it on a shorter jig hook, and this one is very soft because there's lots of rocks down there. So I find with the softer hook, you can actually get it off the bottom, it'll straighten, and then you just put it back in the original position. Just a gorgeous smallie. Just gonna extend them out. Don't want to keep them out of the water too long. Look at, just vibrantly colored. Kind of like a tiger with those stripes down the side. They're gonna disappear though once I release them. That's a little bit of stress marks when they start to get those bars like that. So I'm just gonna put him over here. Bronze back, that's what they call him. And there he goes. You know, when it comes to storing tackle, even soft plastics, I really like clear satchels because you can see where everything is. And if you have the proper bag, you can actually put 3-4 satchels in your bag or more. And then depending on the type of fishing you're doing, you can actually, you know, take satchels that you don't want, put satchels in with the right stuff. But these satchels are made by Flambeau, and they're called Zerust. It's kind of this material that they use, this blue that you see here and in the dividers, actually prevents the metal from rusting. You know, sometimes even when you have wet hooks from fishing and you change up, or if you get rain, or you get splashed inside your lures, sometimes they can rust up. But that material is really good because it prevents the rusting. I also keep a lot of my soft plastics in the actual bags. So these are all the Lunker City bags that I have here, and they seem to fit nicely inside the satchel. Now, these are the two top colors that I was using today. So this is the Finesse fish, classic 4-inch. This is the shad color. It's actually a brown shad. You can see that it's got that brownish back with the pearl silver bottom. And this other one, look at how very lifelike for clear water, kind of like a blue back. Same thing, 4-inch. I started off with the flat jig heads, but I soon went to the round ones because when you're fishing the current seams, the round jig heads seem to drop a lot quicker. You have a little bit more line control. And you can see that these, the Lunker City ones, have those great grub barbs. It doesn't matter whether you're using the flat jig heads or the round ones, whether you're fishing the Great Lakes rivers for a variety of fish, or anywhere actually in the world, a 4-inch Finesse fish fished on a jig head. If you're fishing for fish that are predatory, that eat smaller fish, they will work anywhere. Trust me, I've been fishing them for about 40 years. Unlike fishing still water or in lakes, when you're fishing river systems, the key thing is to mark the things that are going to attract the fish. So number one, bottom structure, where it comes up and meets the shallower water, and also the surface current break so that you can fish it properly. I use the least amount of weight if I'm using things like the Lunker City soft plastics or even twister tails. And I try to fish along the bottom where I know the fish are going to be laying. If I feel anything, I set the hook. Sometimes it's the bottom, most of the time it's a fish. If there's one fish that I love to catch, it's a smallmouth bass. I mean, largemouth bass are great, you know, and fishing for them in the middle of summer, topwater lures, using pig and jig and spinner baits, fishing weed beds, lily pads, you know, topwaters, that kind of stuff. But there's something about hooking a bronze back. These fish have so much power and they're so chunky. Even if you get them early in the year, when you hook a good-sized smallmouth, they just dog it. They try to jump, but usually they just come to the surface and shake their head over and over again. But even then, they can still throw the hook. That's one of the reasons I actually love using a single hook. It works much better if you get it in past the barb. They have a tougher time throwing it than using a lure that's got 2 or 3 treble hooks. Oh, it's another nice bass. Seam bass fishing. I love this. He's on the current side of the boat, so he's putting up a little bit more of a fight. Even though that water's green, you can see him. Look how beautiful he looks. I don't think he's ready yet, but you know what? I'm going to try to get him a little closer. I'm just amazed at how good that anchor mode works. You know, we've got a pretty good current coming along this point. You'll see how fast that boat drifts by us in a second. Look at, he's got that finesse fish just in the corner of the mouth. Oh, nice chunky fish. Look at how fat this fish is. Isn't that a beauty? Just gorgeous. I love that plump belly and those beautiful stripes down the side. There, the hook came out. And I'm just gonna step down here to release him. Look, isn't that nice? Look it, that water is cold. Looking at the boat, he just like those colors, but I gotta go now. Bye-bye. You can see that I've got that electric pinned right on the seam. So this is kind of nice. Now actually, even though we've got 3 other boats working here, they're trying to duplicate what I'm doing, but they're all drifting. They're going downstream. I think one of the keys for the presentation is to get that electric on an anchor mode. If you don't have an electric, you can use an anchor. But I'll tell you, it's a pain because there's some big rocks here. The same rocks that you see up on the shore behind me are in the water. So with the electric, you know, I mean, I can move just like this, in, out, back, forward. And even in the current, it holds so well that I can get that jig to work right on the bottom where those fish are, and right where the structure goes from about 7 to almost 20 feet. And then that's where the current also mixes. So it's that combination that's really producing all the fish. You know, when it comes to finding these structure and current seams in big rivers, like the Detroit, St. Clair, Niagara River, even the St. Lawrence, you pretty well need a sonar. You can tell where the current break is on top, but you can't tell exactly what's underneath. So you can see as the structure is starting to rise, that's the actual structure break. See the fish that we're marking? And even the haze, that's actually bait fish on top. So once I kind of zigzag down a shoreline, and I figure out by visually seeing where the current is, because I don't want to cast into the current, because then I can't keep control over my line. With the Axiom, I can actually look, and I usually keep it on the actual chart, half screen, and also on the down vision on the other half of the screen. And if I find a very productive area that I'm catching the fish, I'll start to do a track so that I can actually follow it when I go back up. So I still watch the sonar because I want to see if there's fish, fresh fish there. But the track really helps because I can stay right in that same line that I was before. So when you're trying to locate these seams, whether it's the structure breaks or the current seams, I got to tell you, you need a really good fish finder and also have a good electric trolling motor so you can actually stay on the spot and cast. That was interesting. Right near the boat, another quality fish. Now this is peculiar. I was getting everything, oh, nice attempt at a jump. I was getting everything on natural colors. I thought, you know, it's nice and bright out. I'm gonna try one of those MFS. It's like a split-tailed beetle and it's chartreuse. Just trying to be gentle here. Hopefully if he stops flopping. He's a respectable fish. Look, nice smallie. Not as big as some of the chunkers that I've gotten earlier. Just hooked very lightly, look, just through that tissue at the top of the mouth, the jaw, which is perfect. That hook just fell out. Amazing, look at it. And there's that, it's like a split-tail grub. I've got it on a 1/3 ounce jig head. That little split tail actually kicks left and right. So I wasn't really jigging it on the bottom, I was kind of swimming it back to me, almost like a swim bait, but I needed that 1/3 ounce jig head to get it out there so it would go down close to the bottom. He fell for it, nice smallmouth. He's not big, but he's got potential, right? That was just a light kiss. Okay. Man, this up, down, it's like a workout. Look I can't even hold on to him. There he goes, right to the bottom. Now, I am using a braided line, but it's a light braid. When I say light braid, this is, I think, 10 pound. And I've gotten caught up on bottom a few times, so my fluorocarbon leader is only about, I'm going to say, 14 inches long from the jig head to where I've got that blood knot connection, which is up near my thumb. It doesn't seem to matter because the water's a little bit green right now. And the rod that I'm using, and I've got one big caster, these are all two-piece. This is a 6'6". It's an R-type. It's made by Rapala with an R-type reel. And it's the rods that have that short foregrip and that nice back grip. I like the short foregrip because when I have my fingers in the right position, have that base of the reel in between my last finger and the one up, you can see that my hand is right on the fiberglass. Not fiberglass, actually this is graphite, which is kind of nice. And this cork conducts a lot of vibration. It's not like this PVC, I think they call it. So the cork is a little bit traditional, but it works really, really well. Early season river fishing, when the leaves are fully out on the trees, the blossoms are just gone, water temperatures are starting to rise, can be so productive. I encourage you, especially if you have a family or you have young kids that you're trying to get into fishing, take them to a local river system. And whether you fish from shore or you have a small boat or a bigger fishing boat, find areas where there's a bit of calmer water near a point or a bay and a bit of a back eddy. And try some jigs, cast them out and fish along the bottom. Especially if the white bass are running, like in the Great Lakes watershed, the kids will have a blast. And if they hook smallmouth, they're gonna have a real fight on their hands. So usually after a long winter, we need an excuse to get out. So get out and start catching fish.
Canadian Sport Fishing has been brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, conquer outdoors. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Blue Cam, a cleaner running engine for a cleaner environment.
See how I can flex that hook? I'll even open it, look. That's not good, I opened it up. See how I'm flexing it? But the advantage is, if your drag is set right, I can put it back in the right position. If your drag is set right, you can still fight a pretty big fish. So I got a pretty big drum earlier, so that's a smart idea. Go to a softer hook, and if you're fishing open water where you're not going to hit a lot of snags on the bottom or rocks, use a standard hook or even a 1X or 2X, especially if you're going for big fish.